This video presents declassified and licensed material of the Global Institute of Logic and Cybernetics.
All right, welcome. We are about to dive into something pretty wild, a really complex and frankly fascinating model of reality itself. It's all sourced from a series of documents called the Universum History Engine. And trust me, we're going to be looking at how this framework completely rethinks, well, everything. From ancient history all the way to the future of the entire cosmos.
Okay, so let's jump right in with a question that, has bugged historians and thinkers for, well, forever. You look at the Great Pyramids, right? These massive, perfect structures, and your brain immediately goes to things like ramps, levers, and just an incredible amount of brute force. But what if we're missing the point? What if their real technology wasn't something you could touch at all?
So, this is where the source material drops a bombshell. It proposes a pretty radical answer. The pyramids weren't just about engineering. They were the physical result of an unbelievably high level of societal alignment. The model calls this coherence. The whole idea here is that a society that is completely unified in its purpose, in its beliefs, can pull off things that just look flat out impossible if you only think in mechanical terms.
Okay, Section 1, Egypt's Secret Operating System. Now, to really get this, you have to stop thinking about Egypt as just a bunch of impressive monuments. The documents ask us to see it as a complete integrated system. They call it a coherence-engineered civilization kernel. That sounds complicated, but think of it this way. It's like a computer's operating system, but for an entire civilization.
And this model, this operating system, it's broken down into 6 key variables. Now, some of them are pretty obvious, right? You've got energy, that's the raw manpower, the logistics of the Nile. And you've got knowledge, their grasp of geometry, of astronomy. But here's where it gets interesting. The model introduces what it argues are the really critical parts. Coherence, which is that alignment of everyone working together. Governance, which was anchored by the Pharaoh. The actual intelligence of the architects. And then there's this last one, the observer field. That's the shared belief system, the shared reality that basically powered the whole thing. And this is what's so cool about this slide. It totally reframes what we think of as power. See, governance wasn't just some guy at the top barking orders. The Pharaoh was more like a central point of stability, a coherence anchor that held the entire system together. And their religion? That was the coordination protocol. It was the software that got everybody, the entire civilization, synced up and moving towards these insane, multi-generational goals, like building a pyramid.
All right, Section 2, the civilization field equation. So that's Egypt, a super specific case study. But how does this scale up? Well, the model takes this whole idea and blows it up into a universal framework. It's called the civilization field.
And what is a civilization field? The model says we should stop thinking about civilizations as just, groups of people. Instead, think of them as a dynamic field, almost like a magnetic field or a gravitational field. It's this invisible structure that has real measurable properties at any point in space and time. And those properties describe its core capabilities, its potential.
And this right here, this formula, it's the core of the whole idea. A civilization's effective intelligence, what it can actually do, which is represented by I, it's not just about how much stuff it knows. It's a combination of its knowledge, its access to energy, and, this is the kicker, its coherence. So what does that mean? It means a super-aligned, super-coherent society can punch way above its weight. It can amplify its intelligence and achieve way more than a fragmented society, even if they have the exact same resources and knowledge.
Okay, Section 3, climbing the observer ladder. So, if a civilization is this giant system, this field, who's looking at it? Who's perceiving it? And that brings us to a really crucial part of this model, the role of the observer. And we're not just talking about a person looking at something. This is about the total capacity for measurement and understanding within the system itself.
The whole model rests on this one fundamental idea. Knowledge is observer-dependent. Think about it. What you can know about reality is totally limited by your ability to even see it, to measure it. It's like you can't possibly understand quantum mechanics if you don't have the tools, the math, the scientific method. The universe is kind of like a video game with locked levels. It only reveals itself in layers, and you can only access those layers if you have the right keys. And that ability to see, to perceive, it's not fixed. It actually evolves through these really distinct levels. We start out as passive observers, just taking in our surroundings. Then we level up. We get language, we get abstraction, that's the symbolic level. Then comes the analytical level, with science and math. But it keeps going. The higher levels let you model yourself, you start seeing hidden patterns that connect totally different fields, until finally, you can perceive everything as just one single unified fabric of reality.
So here's the bottom line. As an observer, or a whole civilization levels up, brand new layers of reality literally open up to you. It's like an access matrix. At level 2, boom, you unlock science. Get to level 4, and you can start to see the hidden structures, the deep rules that govern all kinds of systems. But it's at the highest levels where things get really wild. That's where what the source calls forbidden physics, or observer field physics, becomes knowable. We're talking about understanding the direct interaction between consciousness and the universe itself.
Section 4, History Viewed as a Spiral. Okay, so we've got the building blocks, civilization as a field, and the observer who perceives it. Now, let's zoom all the way out. I mean, to the grandest scale possible. The history of the entire universe seen through this very unique lens.
So this model presents cosmic history not as some boring straight line, but as a series of game-changing phase transitions. You have the cosmic ignition, the Big Bang. Then the universe cools, structures form, stars and galaxies pop into existence, life emerges from that. Eventually, you get to symbolic civilization, us. And all of that history, all 13.8 billion years of it, has led to right now, a moment the model calls the control age, a critical tipping point where the next big transition is already kicking off.
And this is maybe the biggest takeaway of the whole section. History isn't linear. It's not just one thing happening after another. It's a spiral. It's a process that loops back on itself, going through cycles of rising up, falling apart, and then resetting. But, and this is so important, it's not just repeating. With every single loop of that spiral, something new is gained. Complexity goes up. The ability to observe gets sharper. And we manage to build these little pockets of order, right here, locally, pushing back against the universe's natural tendency toward chaos.
And here's a fascinating wrinkle. Inside this giant spiral of history, the model suggests there are entire chunks of knowledge that are, well, hidden, locked away. They could be lost systems of knowledge, suppressed ways of generating energy, or even entire civilizations that got erased from the official timeline. Why? Because we're just not at the right observer level to even see that.
Section 5, Engineering Reality's Fabric. So, where does all this lead? I mean, if history is this big engine for creating more complexity and better observers, what's the end game? What's the ultimate potential here?
Well, according to this model, the ultimate goal, the win condition, if you will, is for civilization to reach what it calls a stable omega state. Now, this isn't some boring, static utopia where nothing ever happens. It's a state of dynamic balance, a state of super high coherence and sustainability that finally lets it break out of that endless destructive cycle of rising up and collapsing that has defined pretty much all of history so far. So, if you buy into this model, humanity is standing at a major fork in the road. We have a choice. We can stay in what's called the oscillatory regime, just keep repeating the same old patterns of boom and bust, rise and fall. Or we can make a conscious choice to engineer our systems, our governments, our knowledge, our social coherence, to shift into a convergent regime, one that actually moves us step by step towards that stable omega state.
And this leads to probably the most profound and, honestly, the most mind-bending idea in the entire model. We're talking about a type omega civilization. A civilization that has gotten so advanced, it doesn't just play by the rules of physics anymore. It can interact with and engineer the very fabric of reality itself. I mean, just think about that for a second. The universe stops being something you just discover and becomes something you can actually program. So that leaves us with one final, really provocative question to chew on. If history really is an algorithm, if the universe and everything that's happened in it are part of some giant complex computation that's spiraling towards greater and greater awareness, what's the final output? What is it all building towards? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the Universum History Engine.